Anyways, my story starts about an hour's drive southwest of Edmonton at the Genesee Natural Area. This natural area overlooks the North Saskatchewan River to its north boundary, and on the south there's a township road, but it's a beautiful area.
I can't put it down.
Myself and Colleen Raymond were looking for a place to do some hiking and birding, and so we started visiting the natural area. In January of 21, we were walking there, and now Colleen will probably claim to have seen these tracks first. I'm not sure if that's how it went, but that's what she claims. And anyways, we saw these tracks, and they're pretty distinctive and look pretty interesting. Neither of us are familiar with them. There's a close-up view. So we took the pictures and posted it online and everything. And I don't know if anybody else is, you find and get a picture of something kind of cool, and when you put it online, you always get somebody, no, I don't think that was a cougar, or I don't think that was a cool bird, whatever. There's always the naysayers, but eventually several experts looked at these tracks and agreed that it was indeed a cougar. And I don't know about everybody else, but I always kind of considered cougars to be an animal of the mountains and foothills. And there'd always been, like, since I started paying attention to wildlife in the late 90s and early 2000s, there'd be these scattered reports in the Edmonton area of people seeing a cougar on their farm. A buddy of mine saw one run across the road by his acreage south of Sherwood Park, and there's all these reports. But yeah, I always kind of considered them a mountainous area animal. This map here, if I can get my pointer to work, this is from 1999, Mammals of Alberta by Patty and Fisher. And this map is probably what I always thought of cougars, quite a ways from Edmonton, off in the foothills and maybe up into the northern boreal. The second map from 2010 from the government of Alberta talks about estimated cougar density, and this definitely shows a change and more cougars moving towards Edmonton. Real hot spot down south of Calgary, lots of big cats down there. And so it seems like things are slowly changing with their distribution. A little background. Historically, cougars covered the whole, or pretty much all of the Americas south of the 60th parallel, right to the East Coast and right down to the tip of South America. They were pretty widespread. And then as the European settlement started, they got, yes?
Can you move your mouse pointer over to the side?
Well, that's me. No? Well, that's him.
No, I can't.
There, like here.
Is that okay? Was it really bothering you?
Better.
Okay, you can all thank Steve for that. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, so European settlement pushed the cougars out, and so like in current day, they're pretty much unheard of on the eastern United States, most of eastern Canada. And so they were hunted and trapped and poisoned. Back in the day, a lot of people might be familiar with the stories. It was considered your duty to civilization to eradicate any of the large predators. They were considered dangerous, maybe more importantly as competition for wild game. And then most of the US and Western Canada had bounties on cougars, so they were actively persecuted. And they ended up getting pushed into the remote mountainous areas of the West. Here in Alberta, there was a bounty until '64. And then pretty important, at least in my mind, is the classification as a game animal in 1971. Because even after the bounty was removed, they could still be killed at will. So if you came across one, you could do whatever you thought you needed to do. So, but in 1971, with the classification as a game animal, then the hunting is controlled, and there's quotas set, so only so many of the cats can be hunted. And then, like I mentioned earlier, by the early 2000s, there seemed to be more and more of these scattered reports of them showing up in various places. I used to spend a lot of time at Elk Island National Park, and there were always stories about people seeing cats, big cats there, but there wasn't the first documented record until 2003. There's a paper written by Glynis Hood talking about that. Probably an important distinction is documented, because I know there's a few biologists here, but the rest of us civilians know what biologists sometimes think about some civilian claiming they saw something cool. They maybe don't believe it till there's a good documented record. So yeah, you want to see a photo or see a good track or whatever. The other side of that is there's often a lot of misidentifications when, if a cougar or something is reported, because people do make mistakes. Things like golden retrievers, and sometimes even your perspective, a house cat, a golden house cat, somebody thinks is a cougar. So there's a lot of mistakes, so they always want something, a little more concrete evidence. And yeah, as of today, it still seems like these cats are expanding to the east. There's a really cool book, and I can't remember the author's name, but it's called Heart of a Lion, and it documents a young male cat. I'll backtrack just a second, a little bit of biology. When young cougars leave their mother, or their mother leaves them, however it works out, young females often stay close to their mother's territory, often maybe getting a territory right close by, or even just overlapping their mother's territory. Young males are inclined, it's probably driven by the genetics, but they're inclined to avoid inbreeding. They're inclined to leave completely their mother's territory and just go as far as they can until they can find their own good territory. The book I was talking to you, Heart of a Lion, documents this cat that was born in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and when it was about a year and a half old, it started moving east, and it left these cookie crumbs across the across the United States. It would be in Wisconsin, and somebody would see it on a trail cam and follow the tracks and find a tuft of fur. In another place, somebody found some droppings. And all this stuff was collected over the years, and nobody really thought any of it because it all seemed like separate individuals. And then there was nothing for almost a year. They think at this point maybe that cat had looped up into Ontario, but then it came back into the United States and showed up in Connecticut. And that's where it finally met its end. It was hit by a car in Connecticut. It was like 30 miles from Manhattan. This cat had gone from over 2,000 miles over the course of 2 years. This cat had wandered looking for, basically it's looking for love. I couldn't find a female, but it just kept moving. It's just a remarkable, and it's crossed all these major rivers like the Mississippi and the Missouri and huge busy interstate highways. It was pretty amazing what this cat did, and it sadly got killed in Connecticut. But this is kind of what's happening, I think, with a lot of these cats. The young males are driven to expand, and of course some females have to move as well. But these cats seem to be recovering. So back to the story. After that original track sighting in January of 21. We were back, Colleen and I were back in the natural area in February, and we saw more tracks. And this struck a chord, well, gee, this place is infested with cougars. Maybe a person should try one of these trail cams. I didn't really know much about trail cams at the time. Just thought, try to get something on these cats that are cruising around here. So picked up a trail cam. The one day we called old Steve Knight, kind of figured, maybe with all these cats running around here, we need a little extra protection. So here's Steve and Colleen with their sharp, pointy sticks, all ready to fend off the cougars. So we set up a camera that day. This is not the exact camera. I made so many rookie mistakes with this first attempt. It was a terrible camera, crappy image quality and really slow to trigger, which is an important thing because if I set it up badly, I set it broadside to the trail, so the camera's there and things are walking along the trail here. And by the time it detected something over here and actually turned on and took a picture, the subject was often way over here. Also at this time, I didn't realize how many people, especially there's a lot of dog walkers were using that natural area. So I was getting a lot of pictures of a person's heel or the dog's tail, or just catching the back end of things. It wasn't a really good successful thing, but so that first one was bad, and it was such a visible location. Within a few weeks, it ended up getting stolen, and good riddance. It wasn't a good camera. I had picked up tried a couple of another model. It must have been on sale or something. I bought two, went back on my own and picked some random game trails, hoping to avoid all the people and dog walkers and everything. And I got excited when I saw this picture, but something wasn't right. But, within a couple of weeks, I got my cougar. Nice 68. You notice the color, it matches there. But, so seriously though, within a couple of weeks, we did get a cougar, March 25th. This is probably the only one, I know Colleen noticed it on the picture right away. This is the only one I ever saw that didn't look healthy. Like, it looks like ribs showing on the side of this animal. Everything else I've seen from the natural area, the animals look pretty healthy. But this cat looked a little on the hungry side. Luckily it didn't, or maybe unluckily it didn't find Steve. And then things started looking like it was pretty easy. A month later, another cat. And next month, yet another one. This is really easy, right? But then it took a year for the next cat. By this time, I'd put a different model of camera up and started setting them to video. So you can start to see, so much better than just looking at the still pictures. I started dropping more and more cameras out there and had to come up with, instead of like camera 4 or camera 5, it started to come up with some better names. And can anybody guess what I called this one? Cougar Cam, yeah. So I'll point out something about this location. There's this big spruce tree here. Somewhere, I can't remember exactly when, a little bit later that year, that tree went down and it kind of blocked part of the trail here. And okay, one more video. This is still at Cougar Cam, a month after that other one. That was kind of neat to see that guy, but then, so that's not a loop recording, this is a second cat. I don't think this is like a courting pair or anything. I would kind of guess it's siblings traveling together, but that was the last cat I ever got on this Cougar Cam. After that spruce tree went down, the traffic pattern changed, and there wasn't even nearly as much deer traffic by here. It just changed things. I still, out of kind of sentimental value, I still have a camera there, but I pretty much get squirrels and the odd deer. So, in September of 22, I got to give you a little bit of lay of the land. On the far east side of the natural area, there's a creek. I've looked at all the maps. I can't find any official names for the creeks in this natural area. So I ended up calling it Chipmunk Creek. And I put up this camera and I called it Beaver Cam. Now that might seem a little weird, right? But this is the end of a beaver dam. When I put the camera up, this was all underwater. There was a great big beaver pond covering a big chunk of the area and did get a lot of beaver activity. But in July of that year, the far end of the dam suddenly washed out and drained the pond. And which led to this nice video of this cat coming in, and instead of just walking by, and she decides to take a little rest. A lot of people that saw this, it looks like she has a pretty heavy belly. And so there's, kind of wondering, is this cat maybe pregnant? Not sure. But We might find out later. So now I'm going to take you to the far west side of the natural area, the second major creek system, which I end up calling Cougar Creek, for probably pretty decent reasons. When we first started going there, this creek was just a trickle. There was just a couple inches of water. But earlier in 22, the beavers built this dam. And because I'm so original, I called it New Dam. But, so 4 hours before I got there to check this camera, this cat came across. I believe this is the same female that was laying down in front of beaver camp. You see her really saggy belly? Like, don't tell her, but that's what I end up calling her, is saggy. She doesn't like it, so don't tell her. I'm gonna just backtrack this. I wanna show you one other thing. If you read tracking books, you'll hear about animals that do, oh my God, I'm having a brain cramp. Lou, what's it called when they put their rear foot in the same spot as the front foot? Direct register. So watch her front foot, and the back foot goes in the exact same spot. So that's direct register when they're tracking. So you almost will never, normal walking pattern, if you see cougar tracks, you're pretty much always seeing the rear tracks, because they're walking right on top of their front footprints. Now back over to the drained pond on Chipmunk Creek. After that cat had laid down there, I set up a camera looking like this is where that cat had laid down the other day, so I set up this camera. And first animals I got on were actually white-tailed deer, so I called a whitetail cam. This looks like a male to me. We'll talk later about how to tell the difference for sure. You need to see it from behind. So yeah, so that was kind of cool seeing that male. About this time of year, right around that same time frame, I'd run into a guy in the parking area who told me the conservation officer had told him about a cougar killing an elk. And it took me a while to find it, but I found basically right where Chipmunk Creek drains into the river. A cougar had taken down this young bull elk. So I thought it was pretty impressive that the cat took down a big, strong animal like that. So now I'm back just north of the old drained pond. I had followed a cat this direction before and saw this nice log. First animal on here was a marten, so this is marten cam. And this looks like our friend Saggy making a trip north. And then the next day, here she is again up by whitetail cam. And just heading back south towards the main road. Still, that belly looks pretty heavy. And then here she is again crossing the marten cam log. That belly's really looking pretty heavy there, huh? This time I backtracked her a couple days later, and I'm following the tracks, nose to the ground, and almost walked right into this mess before I noticed it. This is probably why she was making so many trips north and south, is she had killed a deer here. And by the time I found it, there's like next to nothing left of it. One thing cougars are known to do, and that's what I think this little mound in the center is, they'll often, after they have a feed on their prey, they'll cover up with any loose litter. They'll cover it up. And the other thing they do, this is, I believe, the stomach of the deer. When they first take down their prey, they will, a lot of the books call it, it's almost surgical the way they remove the digestive tract. They don't eat it. They just cut it out and move it away, and then they start consuming the rest of their prey. And here's Saggy again making another trip past the marten cam log. So I followed that, and a few hundred yards later, I came across this. It looked like somebody drug a big heavy toboggan through the snow. And it took me a bit to realize what had happened here. So this is a drag line. When a cougar takes down its prey, sometimes it likes to drag it away to an area where they feel more comfortable eating. So the cat had killed probably a deer and drug it. This went on for a good 200 yards. And I hung around a bit, but I was out on my own, and I started thinking too much, and I lost my nerve, and I just left. Because this was pretty fresh. I think it had happened the day before, and so yeah, I just had to leave and get out of there. I'm ashamed to say it today, but because I would have liked to have seen what happened, but I did lose my nerve there.
Yeah, but you're still here.
True enough. This is still our friend Saggy. She's still making trips over the Martin log there. When I tracked her to that deer kill, she had gone down this neat hill. And so guess what this cam is called? Hill cam. So yeah, here's the other thing about Saggy. She's got, every once in a while you see on the end of her tail, it's got a bit of a kink. You can kind of see it a little bit there. Most of the other, I haven't seen too many other cats with a real noticeable kink like what she has, but I didn't want to call her kinky. So this is Boxing Day of 22, and this is the last time I saw Saggy till May of the next year. And here she is at Whitetail Cam, and she's got some company. You'll see, when she moves out of the way, you'll see. There's some eyeballs. So there's 1 and 2 there. There's number 3. And if you look really careful, there's something moving around down here. And we'll see it on the next video. Here comes number 4. So it turns out she was pregnant. She had 4 kittens, cubs. I think it's allowable to use either. The video just before, this is the same morning, just before this, there was a hairy woodpecker on this log. And this little young guy thought he might be able to catch it. This was super exciting to see this video when you first get it, look at it on. I'm often looking at them on my phone. So the family group made it to Hill Cam, and this date is wrong. It was the same day as that previous video. I have a lot of trouble with my maintenance crew there. They're all constantly putting wrong days in. There's a really important part to this trail cam thing is they work much better if you remember to turn them back on after you replace the card. Yeah, birds are singing. So a couple months later in August, this is on the west side, just above Cougar Creek. I ended up calling this one Puma Cam. Little growl. So the whole family comes by here eventually. I'm still annoyed to this day. I ended up putting a different camera there. This should have been tilted down more, not cutting off legs. It's, again, that maintenance crew really needs reprimand. I think there's still one more coming here. I think that was the female. She was first on the scene there. Later that night, they crossed the new dam. That light on the other side is I got another cam on the west end of the dam. And the next video has the third one, and there's another cat on the other side, and where number 4 is, they never appeared on the cameras. You could hear a couple little vocalizations there. the young guys, had this nice open meadowy area, so it's called meadow camp. And it's just so cool to see a herd of cats coming across like this. They're starting to get, like, they're almost a year old at this stage, and the fourth young one often would be nearby and maybe appear on another camera, but wasn't always hanging directly with the rest of the family. There's a few of them back at Whitetail Cam, roaming around. And then this is just below Puma Cam, right on Cougar Creek. Kind of fitting to see some cougars on Cougar Creek. And again, there's only 3 of the young here, but I'm pretty sure they're all still kind of associating. There's a latecomer coming here. Wait for me, wait for me. And here, a few of them are still here at Hill Camp. 5 or 10 minutes before, there had been a mule deer buck right here. And thinking that's what the cats are looking at. But yeah, that crazy tail twitch, and they just freeze. And the third one knows something's up, is really trying to be sneaky. Yeah.
It's just like a domestic cat would do.
Yeah, I'm sure there's just a lot of genetic relationships there, right? So that ended up being the last time I saw any of that family group together. One day, that winter, I was parking on the east side and I could hear a bunch of ravens going crazy, and I came across this deer kill. It had been picked over pretty good by a lot of scavengers. I couldn't determine who killed it. The tracks were just a mess. But earlier that week, this guy ran past Whitetail Cam. The deer kill was just in the trees back here. So circumstantial evidence seems to point to the cougar taking down that deer. So trail cam, picking a spot for the cameras is probably the biggest part of all of this. This particular spot right above Cougar Creek, I'd followed tracks by this spot 3 or 4 times the previous winter, and finally put up a camera here and called it Cougar Tracks Cam. But here's a big, looks like a male to me, this cat, a big wide head, great big paws. And this by far has been the best individual camera spot that I found. Here's a little rundown. Like, that original Cougar Cam had 6 appearances. New Dan Cam had 7, Whitetail 11, Martin 9, Puma Cam 11. But Cougar Tracks Cam has had 21 appearances so far for me. And it's by far the best spot that I've stumbled on. And one of the reasons is probably this right here. So this, see this male, he's doing a scrape. They call it scraping. And so he's kind of marking his territory, advertising his presence. And I know I came across another guy that works with cougars, and he says if you find a scrape spot, that's definitely a high traffic area for him. This log looked like a nice bridge over Cougar Cam, and here's our old friend Saggy. And it almost, I don't know where cats carry, if they're pregnant, where they carry the young. There's that, did you notice? I'll just start this over again. There's a, yeah, do you see that little pouch, almost pouch there? So I don't know if that means she's pregnant again. I don't know. It's, you can go down a bad rabbit hole if you Google something like pregnant cougar. You gotta be careful, you gotta be careful. So, same log, this is big log cam. This is a different female, pale tail tip as compared to Saggy. I kind of wonder if this pale tip female is maybe one of her young. This is right above Chipmunk Creek. This is the first time the cat really seen, obviously he knows that camera in there. And he's shaking these big paws, so I called it Big Paw Cam. I mean, I know some of these cameras make a little bit of noise, so I'm not sure if it's the noise or the light that attracts them, but that was the first time that a cat really obviously noticed the camera. So I went another day, I'm going to check that Big Paw Cam, and this wider thing is my boot print with a cougar print on top. And so this was 2 hours after I was there the week before. She dropped down to Chipmunk Creek, and it's hard to see under the snow, but there's a small dam here. And so this is even newer dam. I was happy at this point when she left my trail and went off, and she wasn't just following my trail anymore. It was kind of nice to see. This is back at Puma Cam. I believe this is our friend Saggy again. It's always kind of cool just to see a little bit of behavior, you know, other than just walking past the camera. So she's just doing a little maintenance there. I have a feeling she had a bunch of mud on her feet after crossing the creek. Something doesn't taste good there.
Got you gut up yours.
I don't know. I had set up a camera on this. I'd noticed beavers working on this this balsam tree, so I set up the camera on to watch the progress as they took down this tree. One thing I've noticed, I've tried this a few times with beavers, and when it's a great big tree like that, I don't know why I had it in my head that they may be there right till the end, you know, taking the last bite before the tree falls down, but in my limited experience of 2 or 3 big trees like this, they will chew away all around it and everything, and then just leave it and let like the wind or something finish knocking the tree down. So it seems way safer, right, not to be there when this tree goes down. Of course, the camera didn't catch it. The video I have just shows the tree bouncing a couple of times and a cloud of debris popping up. So that would have been the day before, and here's our friend Saggy comes in. And you'll see that light is new dam cam. So we're just on the west side of that new dam in the beaver pond. And so I cropped in on what new dam cam saw, and you'll see this is the cat, and this is that log that the beavers cut down. So this is really hard to see, but I believe she has just grabbed a beaver by the back of the neck and hauling it over the log, and yeah, so I wish that was clearer, but pretty sure it's super, yeah, tough to see, but I'm pretty sure she took a beaver there. I'm going to take you on a little side trip out a little further southwest towards Cynthia. I had put a few cameras out there, hoping for things like lynx and wolf that I wasn't seeing in Genesee. This one confused me, so this cat came by, and 10 minutes later, like, is it circling around, or, you know, what's happening? And it took a bit, but we eventually will find out. So yeah, this one's just poking around. Watch carefully up ahead of that cat. So the first cat, I'm guessing was a female, so I'm thinking this is a courting pair. And so this camera is called 2 Cougar Cam. Nearby, still out by Cynthia, saw this cat with a GPS collar on it. I've been trying to get some info on maybe Lou was talking to me a little bit about the people that may have put that collar on, but I haven't got much info yet. Same camera, there's another herd of cats. So I'm thinking this must be another female with 4 fully grown young. So obviously this southwest country is pretty good for growing cougars. Okay, back out to Genesee. These tracks, I know they don't look very distinct, but I backtracked them into the bush, and these are cougar tracks. So even an amateur tracker can read what happened here. The cougar came out of the bush, jumped in its pickup, and headed to town. So yeah, so I did backtrack it to, this is like 50 yards into the bush, just above the bank over Cougar Creek. What I thought most interesting is the time, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I, to this day, have not seen a cougar in person. And on January 31st at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a cat came out in broad daylight into the parking area there at Genesee, and I was definitely not there. Okay, here, this is a real goofy video I took with my phone.
Another confusion into these springs from back here, and
There were tracks everywhere.
check the first one here. It looks like she came back out here. Okay, so I'll park on this side. Pit stop spot here. Tracks going down there.
Yeah.
Tracks everywhere.
I was totally confused there, but I don't know what was going on. The cat was wandering all over the place. This is a view of Cougar Creek, and that's the new dam down there. One day getting out there, I heard the raven, just a ton of ravens going crazy, and just went down Cougar Creek and saw another deer kill. Again, the tracks were hard to read there, but there's little bits of evidence. So cougars will often use their front teeth to like shear off some of the fur where they're gonna go enter the body cavity to feed. And then the other thing is, if coyotes had gotten to this, killed it, or gotten to it, this would probably just be all ripped apart, and all the legs would be separated and everything else. So I'm pretty sure a cougar took this deer. I set up a camera at that deer kill. I never saw the cougar again. The cool thing was actually I had a golden eagle come in to scavenge on it. So that was kind of neat. Kind of in the central area of the natural area. Central area of the natural area, that sounds good. This cat, this was, again, not one of these close ones. This was 2 hours after I was there. I turned that same camera a little bit, and this another cat came by. This is like the end of March, right? And so when I was there a few days later, all the snow had melted, and the only thing showing was these icy. This is where the cougar prints were. They're so, between their weight and the heat in their paws, I think that's partly why they leave such nice imprints, because they just almost burn into the snow. Here's a different male. This is on top of a high ridge above Chipmunk Creek. First animal I saw here was a moose, so this is Moose Ridge cam. Again, this male, it's not the same male at Big Paw that noticed the camera and turned away. This guy acted the same. He showed up a couple of days later at the same camera. Look carefully at his face when he lifts his face up. He's got a scar on his nose. And about the same time, I had talked to a local man here who told me that a neighbor of his had a dog killed by a cougar. look, see that little, I don't know if you can see that little scar on his nose there, but anyway, this is Scarface. I end up seeing him a few times. Here he is on the other side of the natural area above Cougar Creek. You can kind of see, if you look carefully at his nose, that little scar is there. And he just takes a little rest here, and then he'll, eventually he'll move. Maybe. No, who knows? Oh, there he goes. So he drops down to the creek and comes up on New Dam. This is the camera on the west end of the New Dam. And then he hops up. Remember that log that Saggy ran along to kill the beaver? This is that same log. I had set up a camera here. You can, yeah. That's the lumberjack cam that had taken the video of the tree going down. Nothing real special about this. It's a nice bird song. I was just so impressed that cat stood there and looked the other way and decided to walk right towards the camera. Pay attention to a female with a pale tail tip. She might come into play later. This is back up on the Moose Ridge. A female with a dark tip, so a different cat. Decides she needs a rest right in front of the camera. It's always convenient when they do that. Looks like it was a warm night in July, 17 Celsius.
So is she aware of the light?
I don't think so. Or maybe she's just posing for the camera. Maybe she is, or I really don't know. Back at Puma Cam, here's what's probably a male doing that scraping behavior we talked about before. There's an interesting sequence here at Cougar Tracks Cam. This is a female that comes in. The other light, I had set up another camera off to the right there, hoping for different angles. It never really worked very well. Eventually took it down. But this cat, she comes in, hanging out, and then she comes up here and watch, she's peeing here. And then she'll just sit down.
Trademarking.
Yeah. That's what you do, right, Janos? Take a pee and then sit down?
Yep.
So an hour and a half later, a male comes in. You can kind of see his male parts there. This is a male. He's really looking hard. There's probably a beaver down on the creek. He spends a lot of time looking at it. So nothing amounts to all that, but then he comes up where the female was. And so that's what they call the Flamen, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, Flamen response, where he's evaluating the female's scent, checking her reproductive status. Sorry?
I think it's called,
It's flaming, yeah.
It's same, yeah, it's just a technical name for the same thing.
So he pees in the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's that same, they use the same term for it, don't they, Lou?
Yeah. So the light is invisible, it's infrared.
Supposedly. There's different camera models have different wavelengths of that light, and I think it depends on the animal species, who knows, like coyotes especially really seem to notice those cameras. So whether they're more sensitive to the wavelength, I don't know. This camera is not supposed to be here. I was having trouble with this particular camera. It was like half the time it was working, more than half the time it wasn't. It was super annoying. I had another camera off to the right on the way to a beaver pond, and I'd set this up as a test. It was so lucky because within a week of me setting it up, this guy comes in. I have no way of telling the age. I know from later videos that this is a male, but it just looks young to me. I think it's a youngish male. When he turns his head a little bit, you'll see, turn your head a little more. There you go. You can see porcupine quill coming out of his chin. So I call him quill face. So he made his way down to the beaver pond. There's both. The one on the chin, that's got to be a quill. That's not a whisker. On the sides, that's all their whiskers.
He's only got one quill.
Yeah. So 2 days later, I had moved that camera a little bit to get a better angle, and this looks like the same cat, but that quill out of his chin is gone. So he must have got rid of that, if it is indeed the same guy. But he came back down for a drink here. The light is super low. It must have just been enough for the camera to shoot in color instead of going into nighttime mode. So you can see the dark spot here. That's dark fur. That spot is a clear-cut indicator of a male. So he goes up, remember that other camera I was telling you? I called it on the way camera. He goes up here and sits down for a bit, for a little rest. And then eventually he'll do something. There he goes. So he's going back up towards Quill Face Cam, right up there. And this was the first time Sorry. Survived.
It's still working, that camera, huh?
Yeah, it's still going. So that, again, this is from just these different angles, same time and place. There's water right below him there. I'm not sure what he's looking at there, if he's just trying to get to the water. The other place he was drinking was actually like 20, 30 yards away. Much easier way to get right to the water's edge. And then, like I say, it's just interesting watching these cats' behavior sometimes. It doesn't do a ton here, but a little break. I don't know what he saw. He just took off up the hill there and then stopped up there. So I'm not sure what was going on. Now, remember we talked earlier about a female with a pale tail tip? This is just this past December. And so she's got some company. And again, my theory is this female may be one of Saggy's daughters. I have no idea, no way to prove that, of course. There's her second little one.
Oh, these were born in the spring.
These, I'm guessing, were like, just looking at stuff online and that, I'm guessing like 4 months old. So I'll go into this quickly right now. Cougars don't have a fixed season for having young. They can go into estrus any time of year and give birth any time of year. There tends to be pulses where a lot of them are born like some of the books talk about birth pulses in May and June, but these Genesee cats seem to be giving birth in the winter, or late fall, early winter. So that was just north of, this is Meadowcam again, and so a few minutes later, there's the new mom coming down Meadowcam. When the beavers built that even newer dam, the water level came up here. There's a little guy. Mom, Mom. Wait for me, wait for me. So they kept going. This camera we haven't looked at before. This is like 20 yards away from the road. So of course it's called by the road cam. And so here's the family group comes by. I hate this, but so many of these cameras fog up the lenses. I've tried like the wipes and everything to prevent it, but nothing seems to help. A couple minutes later, she comes back in. She must not have liked something on the road or decided not to go on the road. She came back in here. And everybody's still following along. Now, the same night, this is made, depending, again, I can't rely on my maintenance staff and the exact times on some of these cameras, but this is probably somewhere, allegedly by these camera times, 45 minutes to an hour later. They're like 2 kilometers away on the far west of Cougar Creek, on the far west side of the natural area. I had stuck this camera here, I don't know, I was looking for someplace to stick it, and I just stuck it in a random spot and ended up getting the family group here. At this point it was still unnamed, so now it's Cougar Family Cam. Around the same time, this one night had me kind of wondering what this cat is doing. This is look at all the porcupine quills on this girl's head. So this looks like a female with a dark tail tip. And here she is, a whitetail cam. Then she went across the old beaver pond to what I call black bear cam, following my trail. And then she wound up, I've never seen a cougar here. This is set up on a rough grouse drumming log. And she's checking stuff out here. The only thing that was right here was me. And yeah.
You smell good.
It's probably the camera. And then she ends up, it's not linear at all. This is hill cam. This is a ways to the north. And then this is Moose Ridge cam, which is fairly close to hill cam. And she goes by here. This is all the same night. And I've had cats go kind of past one camera to another, but they make sense. It's kind of a linear line of travel. But this cat was just, I don't know. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was just totally following my trail.
Are those antlers in the foreground?
Yeah. The deer didn't shed it there. I found that shed and thought it'd be cool to drop it. And this is not even this is the last one I'm showing you, but here she is again at the camera that young Quillface was at. So she just was totally following my route. Eventually she did leave my route, so I was kind of relieved. This is Cougar Family Cam in the daylight, and this one had me totally confused. It took me a while to figure out what was going on here. So there's new mom, 2 young guys, but there's too many cats here. This one here, I believe, this looks like another adult female. And you're hearing more and more about new research about, old thought was that these cougars are not social at all. But there is some new evidence showing them, cats sharing a kill and this and that. I can't help wondering if those two, the new mom and that second female, were maybe sisters. I don't know, but it just does seem strange to see the two adults, and the mom just didn't seem bothered by that other adult at all. This was about an hour behind me on a camera check day. And then off in the middle of the natural area, a spot called 5 Deer Cam, the family comes by again. This was half an hour after I was there. I can't help wondering if that second female is still off, and that's what both the mom and the young cat look back at. And that's the last cougar I've seen at Genesee. It's been a long dry spell of 3 months now. There's a little rundown of how bad my addiction has gotten. So back in 21, when I had, like, you can't see the 6 cameras and 3 appearances, 20 cams to 40, 55, and yeah, I'm ashamed to say I'm up to 66. It's like Percy Zalaski once said, you can't go in the bush, can't go take a pee in the bush at Genesee, you never know. You never know if you're gonna get caught or not. But yeah, 25 was an awesome, so I was counting, I called an event if a cat went past several cameras at once. It's obviously the same cat, right? And the different appearances is just how many separate camera appearances a cat made. But yeah, 25 was an awesome year. 26 is looking pretty grim so far, but it's been a really cool adventure watching these cats. This is a super conservative number here, saying that there's at least 10 different individuals. That's considering that some of the adults I'm seeing after Saggy had her family and then separated. Some of the adults after that, especially the females, may have been her young. So I'm trying not to double count. But there's at least a bare minimum of 10 individuals I've seen in these 5 years, but probably closer to 20. So that place is definitely seems to be a very good place for cougars. And like I said before, to this day, I have not seen one person. I have just hundreds of videos on YouTube under Alberta Wildlife Cam, so if you're feeling like you're having trouble falling asleep, look that up. Most of them are pretty short, like probably average 2 to 4 minutes. I mean, I haven't shown you anything other than cougars tonight, but there's been a pretty good wide variety of different animals and birds and things that have picked up there. So if you are interested, take a browse through that. Any video that has a cougar on it has a cougar in the thumbnail. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions. Vincent.
What's the shortest time lapse between a cougar being in the area and you showing up?
Yeah, that was that very last cougar family, half an hour. So that was the closest I've had. Yes, sir.
Did you catch much activity of humans walking around in the area on your cams?
Oh yeah. Not nearly as bad as when I had it on that main trail, but you can tell when it's hunting season, that natural area gets used by quite a few hunters. Seems to be lots of dog walkers like that area, which seems a little risky to me, but yeah, there's a few people. Some cameras never see a person, others pick up the odd one.
Just to follow up on that, there's no incidents of the interaction with the cougars with the humans in that area that you're aware of?
Not that the only thing I ever heard of was that one fella local man that lost a dog to a cougar. But this fella, I know this guy let his dogs just run free. Like, so they're roaming around free in the natural area from time to time, and they were hunting dogs that had GPS collars, and that's how they found it when the GPS showed that it wasn't moving for X amount of time, and they went and found the dog and determined it was by a cat. Yes, ma'am?
How often do you have to go in and change it, and when do you know, like, when the battery's running out?
So I go almost weekly. I don't have to, but for me it's a good excuse to try and get some exercise. I could use probably more, but But it's a good excuse to get out there, so I just go every week.
Question.
Yes?
You have life insurance?
No, you can put some out for me if you want.
Have you seen a decline in the deer in the area?
It doesn't seem to be. It's kind of like it's not as bad as counting cats, but there still seems to be lots of deer. I see lots of deer on the cameras all the time. Tracks when I'm in the bush, there's always lots of deer sign. So I don't think all studies that I've read show that unless a prey population is, super low and on the verge of going extinct on its own, cougar predation cannot, or normally won't put it over the edge or anything. Colleen?
So a little earlier on, there was that male that was pouncing, that came around and was pouncing. Do you remember?
Like very early on, I think,
17 degrees.
yeah.
Do you know, like, what, do you think it was catching, like chasing prey or something? Because it was like mine was too, wasn't hot or anything.
Yeah, I think it was just, maybe it had just climbed a hill. I don't, unless they're hunting, they're not don't seem to be particularly worried about being super quiet, unless they're really in hunting mode.
Okay, but like was it exerting energy to create that house? Or is there other reason for it?
I don't know, I'm guessing it just maybe just climbed a little hill or something and just walking along, Hendrik?
Are there any records in North America of cougar attacking humans?
Oh, plenty.
Lots.
It's not nearly, if you consider how many cougars there are and how many people are recreating in cougar country, it's really not that bad. Like, I mean, clearly somebody like me spending so much time in cougar country is probably at highest risk, but I think we're all lucky. Cougars really don't look at humans as prey. They often specialize on certain species, like you get cats in certain areas will target elk, and most cats target deer, and they'll obviously take a beaver or whatever. I think they really like porcupines too. Besides the cats with porcupine quills in their face, I very rarely actually see porcupine or porcupine sign there at Genesee. So I think the cats are keeping them thinned out. But yeah, bottom line is we're really lucky that cats don't look at us as prey, and there are records. Small children are particularly in danger. So if you have small kids, I would not take them out to cougar country and let them out of sight, because that is one of the high target.
Do you take anything to protect yourself in case it's less than half an hour?
Janos gave me a stick. So I carry a Janos Kovac walking stick, which makes me feel quite secure. Sometimes I carry bear spray. I'm not always the most meticulous in keeping care of my gear. So my method of keeping bear spray is to throw it in the back seat of the car, let it roll around. I lost the little safety thing on the bear spray. That fell out, so I lost that. So a couple weeks ago, I'm walking with the bear spray in my pocket. I bend down to check a camera, and all of a sudden something's spraying, and what the heck? And there's bear spray all over the place. And then there's a big mistake after you do that. You don't reach in your pocket and then scratch at your face. Don't do that. Don't do that. Luke?
That's an incredible show, Gerald. Patience, persistence, and perfection. Those are 3 P's.
What about dumb luck?
Answer to Henrik's question, as far as I know, there's only one person who's ever been killed in Alberta, and there was a lady skiing in Banff.
In Banff, there was that one.
However, in British Columbia, there are quite a few incidents.
Yeah.
BC, and there's like this crazy thing of one certain park in California where a number of people were attacked. And yeah, there's these handful of spots. There's a book about cougars in Boulder, Colorado that kind of tries to tie a bunch of stuff together. Boulder being like, I think it's like a university town, and it's fairly liberal in its outlook on things, and so they have, deer have moved into town, and they don't allow any hunting or anything, so the deer are all over town, and eventually as the cougars, like we talked about them starting to recover and spread east, cougars started showing up in Boulder, and it started with dogs getting killed, deer being killed in people's yards, and still nothing was done, and these cougars started to get fairly habituated, and eventually a young man was attacked and killed and partly consumed.
That's the beast in the garden, right, Gerald?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if I'm summing it up with any accuracy, John, but so I think what maybe has happened to a certain point, all those cats that, back in the bounty days, it probably was in, behavior weeded out. Any aggressive animals were pulled out of the gene pool, and just now started potentially reverting in places like that where they're not hazed or hunted or anything. So, but we're still pretty lucky there aren't very few cougar attacks.
I just wanted to, both thank you and then comment on Saggy, because domestic cats have what's called a primordial pouch.
Oh, okay.
And so I just Googled it during the talk. It said a lot of big cats have it as well. And
okay.
It's just a protective pouch. It's not fat. It's just something to protect them when they're fighting, protect their internal organs.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why she would have one and other ones don't. But
yeah, because that one is so pronounced on almost any other cat I've seen out there.
Yeah, but I've had one of my cats, I've had a lot of cats in my life, but one of them had a really obvious pouch.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that through the mic, please?
Oh.
Okay, so the lady here was just mentioning she on Google had found that domestic cats have, what was it?
Primordial pouch.
Primordial pouch, so that one, when that cat was going across that log bridge, showing that pouch there, that may have been what we were seeing there.
It's a protective thing if they get in a fight, to protect their internal organs.
All right. Well, we still have, are there any more questions, or you guys want to make your dash out of here? Okay.
Another top predator is wolves. Did you see any wolves down there?
Not at Genesee. No wolves, no tracks. Further southwest by Cynthia, there's plenty of wolves. There's lots of tracks. Getting them on a camera is much harder, but there's way more wolves if you go further west. Or north, I imagine.
We've seen them near Darwell.
Oh, you are getting them there too?
Singles, one back of 6 at one point.
Oh, cool. Yes?
Hi, you mentioned there's hunting in Genesee. Are they able to hunt cougars there?
I'm sure they are. It's just a provincial natural area, so I see a few deer hunters. Most of the hunters I see, I think, are hunting birds like rough grouse. But I'm pretty sure there is, I know we've talked to Brian about cougar hunting that has happened near there. So yeah, I'm sure it does happen sometime.
Gerald, what's your recommendation on a good trail camera?
Oh, so I've run the gauntlet there. There's a few models on Amazon that are a pretty good price. They seem to be, like there's this company called Cam Park that their cameras are pretty good. They're on their website, they're a little higher price, but you can find like what looks to be the exact same camera on Amazon under some crazy brand name I've never heard of before. And it takes like really nice images. Like most of the video here was on some of these Amazon, what I think are built by Cam Park. And there's some models that have completely solar powered, and others that have a solar panel and battery plus backup AAs, that seems to be a nice combination. But yeah, I would look up Cam Park and look at some of their models, and then see if you want to save some money, try to find the clone version on Amazon. Like TC22, Cam Park TC22 is a really high quality, nice quality with a solar panel, really nice camera. Browning makes a couple of decent ones, like that cat going across the beaver, the new dam. That was a Browning HP5, which takes really nice video. It's not 4K, but the video just looks nice. So.
Gerald, so how many cameras do you have, and what are you up to in investments?
I'm not telling. Well, I showed you those stats there. As of the end of this year, it's 66, at least at Genesee. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like pushing 80. I won't tell you about the ones that were stolen, the ones that were flooded, the ones that bears wrecked, the ones that beavers wrecked. Moose, yeah, the moose kick one. It's a high risk game, man. You gotta.